Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to this new episode of the On the Gunline podcast, where we just chop it up and shoot the breeze like we would out in the field. So go on and pop a squat because it's about to get hot right now. You are on the gun line now. Check it out. For some reason, my last episode didn't get put on Spotify, which really irks me because it's on Apple, but not on Spotify, and that kind of irks me right there. But maybe because the topic was a little too controversial for them. I'm not sure. Either way, we're going to still rock with it today. So, with that said, as you can see, if you're a friend of the pod, you've been listening to a while, I have old Vincent Campos here again, our political subject matter expert. And today he's going to give us a quick class on some politics. With that being said, he'll be doing the majority of the talking. I'll be doing the majority of the listening and with questions here and there. If this is your first time here, do me a favor, smash that subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. And also, if you're a returning person, smash that subscribe button. Let's get these numbers up. Let's go ahead and slap a like on this content so we can go ahead and get into the algorithm. Do me a favor and let's have a comment conversation at the bottom here if on the YouTubes, if that's where you're watching me at. But either way, let's go ahead and get this algorithm moving so it can get to the right place, to the right ears. With that said, gunline, gunline, gunline. Fire mission coming down. I don't know if I said that already or not. Either way, if it's evening, morning, or afternoon, thank you for being here. Today is the first of the month, March 1st, 2024. I can't believe the year is going by so quick, especially on this political season that seemed to have started 3 years ago. So, with that, we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. You'll be listening to this next week on Monday when I drop it. But let's get to it. What's up, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Beautiful day outside today here up here in Nebraska/Iowa. So
Nice, nice. It's not too bad out here either, man. I mean, it was a little bit breezy yesterday, a little bit cold. Not gonna lie, I kind of enjoyed it too. I mean, it was a perfect day for two politicians to come down here and show their face out here in Texas. One in Brownsville, one out in frickin' Eagle Pass. What are your thoughts on that, bro? I mean, what did you think of? Did you even watch any of the any other commentary that they made or?
I really haven't been paying attention too much because uh, the Democrats, they're not having a primary, which is unfortunate,
Hmm.
and the Republicans, Trump's basically taking every state. Um, in my opinion, Nikki Haley should have dropped out after South Carolina, but the money that's behind her is what's keeping her in, and they don't. They're playing a gamble that they're hoping that Trump somehow gets uh, convicted and he can't run. So then she would automatically take his place or take the place as the GOP nominee, um, which I think is ridiculous. But
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a what I'm looking forward to as a general. That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, it's it. They say we have a choice as far as like who we elect, but it seems like being that we only have a bipartisan freaking system here, two-party system. It really we don't have a choice because both of our choices, it's either Dumb and Dumber or like South Park had said, it's between the turd sandwich and a giant douchebag.
Yeah,
So it's like the best of which evil do you want? Now I'll be 100% honest with you. I lean center right. I think a lot of my audience knows this. I'm a center right type of person because there's things on the left that I enjoy and there's things on the right that I enjoy, that I agree with, I should say. But honestly, I think there needs to be a cap. I know I've said this before. I don't know if we discussed it before last time you were here, but there should be some kind of a cap on the age limit. Because, I mean, 62 should be the age limit. That way, if you hit two terms, you're out by 70. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I think that also needs to be adapted into the Congress, into all our politicians, Senate, representatives, because we're just keep uh, electing the same. It's the definition of insanity. You're doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome, but it's not.
Well, and what plays into it is, what plays into that is basically career politicians. It creates the sense of having a career politician where people get involved in politics and they make a career out of it, which anybody who reads the founders, that's what they want. They tried to prevent.
Hmm.
was that career aspect. Basically, going into Congress is supposed to be looked at as a service. You go there, you represent maybe 2, 3 terms, and
Hmm.
then you come home, and then somebody else does it. And that's really what it was, the purpose and what it was originally looked at. But now it's not like that, because now you have people doing it and turning it into a career.
Yes.
Uh, our Senator Grassley, I think, is the long as of right now is the longest serving senator in the Senate right now. Senator Grassley of Iowa.
How
Yeah,
long?
he's go. We're talking. He's been there since the '70s, and
Jesus.
he yeah he said he's running one more term, and if he wins and when that term's up, he's going to be in his 90s. He's going to be in the 90s and in the Senate.
Good
Yeah,
night. I mean, I just
yeah.
saw something on the news that I guess what's that fool's name? The one that has no chin, tall white boy,
Mitch McConnell.
Mitch McConnell. Yeah, he's finally throwing in his tie to get out, but I mean,
Yeah.
it needs to be sooner than this, bro. What what is what can people do to start? Because I look, I think one of the biggest issues that we have within this country is that we seem to only vote every 4 years, and that's the only time that
Yeah.
people want to get out there and vote in
So,
mass, versus doing it, starting at the fucking foundation, starting with your council members at your local elections, like every 2 years.
so what the thing I wanted to talk about today, to reiterate on that, is that I want to talk about the delegate, because right now we're in a presidential election, and
Hmm.
so there's a system called the delegate or convention process that
Hmm.
most people kind of don't understand the process, but it unfortunately we live in a two-party system. But if more people were to understand it, they'd be able to understand how much more of an impact small groups of people can actually make
Hmm.
if you actually have a dedicated irate minority of people.
Okay.
Um, so, like for example, I so in 2008, I was the youngest delegate at the St. Paul National Republican RNC National Convention
Okay.
in the state of Texas. Um, and I was there. I was one out of that entire stadium of delegates there. There was
Hmm.
300 of us that were there going to voting for Ron Paul, and I was one of
Okay.
them. And and so I actually have been all the way to the top, as well as I worked at the local level, and that's where it starts at, is at the local level. And so that's why I want to kind of talk about today
Okay.
is basically within the system of that two-party system, because I believe if more people understood it, more people would be able to make a difference.
All right. Well, let's break it
So
down. Go ahead and start. I'm gonna go get my coffee. You go ahead and start talking, baby. You got it.
okay,
Go ahead.
so basically, each state has a primary system. Okay, um, other states are different. For example, here in Iowa, we're the first in the nation, but we're a caucus. We still have a primary system, but when we vote, the first time we vote for president in the straw poll, or in a straw poll, is called a caucus. Okay, and so basically the difference between a caucus and primary is, primary, you basically just you show up and vote just like any other election. A caucus, you actually show up to a room. People who are there to represent any of the candidates speak on their candidate, make 3 minutes to say, "Hey, this is why I want you to vote for my candidate for president," and then you vote, and then afterwards, everybody you vote on a ballot, and then you go to and then the ballot gets tallied, and then that person wins, whoever wins the precinct.
Hmm.
Most people know about that. Um, Now, what most people don't know is what happens after the primary vote at the end of the night, or after what happens after the caucus. And so what happens after the caucus is usually, now again, every state's different, but I'm going to use generalizing terms.
Okay.
Usually what happens is, so like in Iowa, after the caucus, there's two elections that happen after the caucus. Some people will leave, and then some people will stay, and then two elections happen. There's an election for someone to represent uh, that county or that precinct in the Republican Republican or Democrat Central Committee, which is the ruling body of the county of the party. Um, and then there's um, an election to happen, basically to be a delegate to the county convention. Okay,
Okay.
and the reason why that's important during a presidential year is because it's those delegates who gets elected to the county convention, then to the state convention, and then delegates. Then you get elected to delegates to the national convention, and it's those delegates at that national convention is who decides who the presidential nominee for the party is.
Right.
Not the Iowa straw poll, not the New Hampshire primary. Those at the end of the day, those are just actually just straw polls. Is actually what they are.
Right.
Um, and so it's the delegates who they're the ones who decide. And then also when you get elected in that process, so like for example, when you're a delegate and you go to the county convention, you also committees are formed and you can be part of this and you volunteer for them. And like one committee is basically a platform committee, and basically the platform is basically it's a platform that says this is what us as the Democrat Party or the Republican Party of this county what we believe in. And
Mhm.
so you can have an influence on that on what they believe in. At the end of the day, does it really mean anything? Yes and no. However, you can have it, and then you can always use it like we have before. Use it to call out politicians. Say, hey, look, we believe in this. The party believes in this. You're not living up to it.
Mhm.
Um, and then when you get so that happens at the county level, and then you like delegates to the state level. The same thing happens there. There's other business, but the two big things that happen at the state level is platform and then electing delegates to the national. And
Gotcha.
then when you go to the national, it's national so big. If you were to go back in time and look at videos of national conventions, Democrat, Republican,
Yeah.
60 years ago, it was a big. They actually went there and did business. They actually would go there, debate, they'd vote. Now it's basically turned into a dang circus show.
Yeah, it looks like
Um,
it's just like a big old circus or a big old rally.
pep
'Cause
rally.
yeah, because they already pretty much have an idea, or they already know who they're gonna
Yeah,
elect before they all that is just like here's we, and then they're the person who's that they've decided is gonna run goes and accepts
yeah,
their nomination, right?
it, yeah. And the thing is, it's funny is because back in the old days, these candidates would stay. Like you hear about candidates like DeSantis dropping out,
Yeah,
and Tim Scott dropping out, and Vivek dropping out, and all these other,
right,
and they all drop out. Well, back in the old days, they would stay in until that county convention because they would encourage their supporters to become delegates to go and fight for them and debate for them at the national convention. And
right.
there would be a big election. A good example one that a lot of people talk about is the 1964 Republican convention when Barry Goldwater won that, and they had a huge there was a huge debate on that, and yet the list of all these people running, the big top two candidates was Barry Goldwater and Nelson Rockefeller,
Okay.
and Barry Goldwater he won out, but the point is that that's what used to happen, and in my opinion that's what still should happen, but because of the fact that you have this establishment that's involved,
Right.
they don't allow it in the money, and there's so much money interest involved that it's not allowed to happen, and
Well,
so
that's I was gonna
so
say I think a lot of it has to do with the money.
yeah,
People don't seem to want to now vote on what they stand on.
yeah,
They just go and vote on who's the best liar and who has the
yeah,
best dirt on the other person.
yeah, and so, but the thing is, if more people understood this process and got involved, oh my goodness, it's you would be surprised on how much influence you can have on whether it's the Democrat or the Republican Party,
Why?
and influence on these candidates.
Let's take RFK Jr. for an example.
Yeah,
Because he is the one that they're saying he would be more of a like a wrench in the gears
yeah,
to either party. More so to I think I saw the Democrat Party
yeah.
versus the Republican Party. Um, why is it that why would a third party really be such a bad thing within this country? Like, it divides up, I guess, the electoral college as well. So,
Basically, so from their perspective, from the establishment and the career politicians' perspective, who don't like it, they don't like third parties because what it does is it like you said throws a monkey wrench in, but depending on where that third party sways more, like for example, RFK, his family's Democrat, that he was running as a
mhm,
Democrat until he had to go independent. Someone like him is more likely going to take more votes away from, like, let's say Joe Biden,
yeah,
which may cause Trump to win an election. And so that that's why they hate third parties. But the
Hmm.
problem is what do you expect when you have a two party system and you don't allow for anything else? And the people just get tired of it. And so so with what I'm explaining within the delegate process, that's I I talk about it because that's the system that we have, that we're forced to
Hmm.
have. However, if you understand it, you work within it, the impact that people can have, they don't understand that. But like I said, I wish more people did.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. If more people were actually involved within their delicate
Yeah,
selections, I guess you could say,
yeah,
then they'd be able to go ahead and influence or affect who not the actual
yeah,
nominee would be, versus
yeah.
just whoever the establishment props up.
That, and also I wish that more people voted in the primaries than waiting until the general election, because
Mm.
you hear it all the time where, oh, we got to settle for these two. Well, maybe you should have, when there was 10, 15 candidates in the primary election, that's when you should have been voting. That's when, because then you would have had your candidate, regardless of whether it's Democrat or Republican.
Right. So I mean, and if y'all see, that's my mama in the background right there. She's walking by. She doesn't like to be on camera, so let me go ahead and put my little virtual background on. Oh, there she goes. Never mind. She already went through. Well, anyways, but yeah, dude. I mean, I think one of the biggest, we don't have to settle for these two, right? I mean, at this time we have to, because that's just the system that we have right now.
Yeah,
So there's no change. I mean, because at the end of the day, my understanding is that in order for someone to be elected president, they have to have 270 electoral votes. You can't be
yeah, something like that.
269.
Yeah,
So if there was even a third party person running there, I mean, it'd be impossible for that person to get 270, or for anyone to receive 270 electoral
yeah.
votes, right? If even just one state went the other way.
I mean, I'd have to look at the numbers, but yeah, something like that. And
Yeah, it gets kind
it,
of tricky,
it,
man.
yeah. I mean, and another thing that I something that I would encourage, and I wish every state was like this, was Nebraska and Maine are the only two states where they're not winner take all, and
Right.
I wish every state was not winner take all, because then you have, so like, here's the best example. You look at, whenever we have a presidential election, look at the color of Illinois. That's the
Mhm.
best. That Okay, when you look at the color of Illinois, the majority color of that entire state is red, except for that one little small area that's on
Right.
the east side on the river, where it's Chicago.
Right.
And but because Chicago is so heavily populated, they decide all the electoral votes of that entire state. That's completely not fair. That
Yeah.
is no, that is completely unfair representation right there.
Wow. I mean, I didn't even think about it that way. I mean, I've thought about, like, cause I know during the election season during the year, or let's say, on election night, it doesn't even have to wait till the polls close, like in California. You already know
Yep.
that's already blue automatically.
Yeah.
New York automatically. You could already tell who's going to be blue,
Yeah.
who's going to be red. That's why it always comes down to those
Yeah.
swing states.
Yeah. And just New York's another one. Look at the color of New York, and you'll see all these other counties outside New York City is all red, and upstate New
Hmm.
York all red, except for where New York City's at is blue. But they're so heavily populated, they decide the entire election
For that
for their
state.
state.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think should happen? Should it be like per county?
It it
Uh,
it would it would be like Nebraska and Maine, where it's so, like, let's say in Nebraska there's four congressional seats, four
okay.
electoral votes. It would be decided individually, like it is Nebraska. So, like,
Mm,
District One, like Omaha District One, which is the more heavily populated, that might go
hmm.
blue, but the other three, that's more rural, might go red. So you have,
Okay.
instead of the entire state going Democrat, you have three electoral votes probably going Republican, and then one electoral vote going Democrat.
Wow. See, that thing is right there, though. That makes too much sense there. And one thing
I
that we
know.
learned in the army, one thing that I know that you learned in the army, and that I learned in the
Yeah.
army, is that the government, for some reason, avoids things that
It's
makes too much sense.
Yeah. Well, it's the
Yeah.
two party system. That's the thing. This is an example of the two party system working together. They work together
Hmm.
because they want everything to be winner take all. Because
Right.
again, that's another monkey wrench. That's another monkey wrench, because then, uh, when it comes to strategizing, when these parties at the national level strategize,
Hmm.
their strat. It's like you were talking about. All we already know we're going to take New York. We already
Mhm.
know we're going to take Illinois. We already know we're going to take California.
Right.
Okay, so we just need to focus on these other. Well, no. If all the states were not winner take all and they were
Hmm.
decided individually, then you'd actually have to go out. You'd have to go out more and advertise yourself and
And campaign.
campaign to more people.
Yeah.
And there wouldn't be this. Oh well, all we got to do is win Chicago, and we got all of
Right.
Illinois' votes.
You know
That
what? How would that be ratified? How would they change that?
it,
How
it,
would
it,
something like that be changed per
each
state?
state is done individually. They have to do it at the. But the thing is like I said, we have a two party system, and this is the one big thing the two parties will work together on
Hmm.
because they don't want this monkey wrench to the two parties. That's one thing that they both work together on, and they don't talk about it.
That's the
Is
one thing they actually agree on.
well
Like, keep it
that
this way.
yeah that and also putting laws in place that helps prevents third parties from
Right.
running. Like for example, you got to have a certain amount of signatures. You got to have a certain amount of money.
Yes.
You got to be this and the laws that are just completely unfair, which they don't have to worry about because they already got the signatures, they already got the members of the party,
Hmm.
they already got the recognition. Completely unfair. And so, like I said, they work together on these laws.
You know what I trip out on is the fact that these people on both sides, they they make us feel like we actually have a choice in the vote, but we don't. I mean, it just same. Look what happened to Bernie, and I'm not a Bernie fan, but I mean, he got fucking screwed over. Tulsi
Yeah,
talked about it, and Tulsi gets called, labeled a freaking asset for the Russians. You know,
Russians. Yeah,
yeah, dude, and it's like, are you serious? She was uh, I will say to this day that she was like a gift handed to the Democrats. Like, this one
yeah,
could get elected,
yep,
and but they were
yeah,
like, nope, we want Kamala, even though Kamala got fucking destroyed, and then they were like, nope, we want fucking old rinky dink Joe. Now look at Joe.
yeah,
I don't know if you watched it, man. I saw these guys taking a walk on the border on the news yesterday. Poor Joe. He looks like a grandpa that should be walking around in the
yeah.
senior living, like, oh, where are we going? Having some ice cream.
Uh,
And
did
then,
you hear
you
about?
got what's that?
Did you hear about when he was talking about the president of Egypt and the president of Mexico?
Oh God, yeah, I made a comment about that. Like, I wonder what border he's talking about right there. Yo,
Yeah,
speaking of which, did you see what happened in Gaza or hear about it?
I have
About the
not.
fucking there were some trucks that were gonna go drop off aid. So the Gazans started going up, the Palestinians started going up there to try to, I guess, I don't want to say not attack, but they were starting, like, amassing on these trucks that had
Yeah,
the, food and stuff like that because they're starving,
yeah, because
you
they're
know?
starving. Yeah,
And so the fucking Israelis just let off on them, killed over
yeah,
100 people.
that,
This happened
it,
yesterday. It was on the news yesterday,
yeah, it doesn't
and
surprise me. I'm
everybody claims, huh?
I'm surprised the media even covered it that way.
Mm. Well, you know that they're put the spin on it, like, well, a lot of people are Hamas and they'll take it over,
Yeah,
and blah 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 blah. So that's being okay. If that was the case, then when we were out there deployed in Iraq, I should have had like free range on
yeah,
smoking
that,
everybody.
yep, yep. That's the mentality the Israelis have, and they've had that for a long time.
Too long of a time,
Yeah,
and it sucks. Like, I mean, after listening to, I don't know, did you watch that Putin
Tucker
conversation?
Carlson,
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually listened to the whole thing.
Me too, and I must say, I mean, I
He,
learned a lot of history that day, believe it or not. I mean,
well,
that, like,
he,
a lot of shit that he was talking about, I had no idea of. Not that it really matters to me because I'm not there, I'm not from that area,
yeah,
But
yeah,
at the end of the day, what really irked me and pissed me off was that they had a deal made, and then I guess Boris Johnson decided to say, "Nah, don't accept that shit.
yep,
We got your back."
yeah, yeah.
Who are you to
Well,
speak for the rest of everyone else?
yeah, and yeah, I mean it's what's been going on since when the Cold War ended and the Soviet
Hmm.
Union fell. There was promises made that there'd be no reason for NATO to increase anymore and to further its borders. And this is what they said. These are the promises that they made to the Russians after the fall of the Soviet Union and
Hmm.
the Cold War, and they have not lived up to that. They've done the exact opposite, and so that's what has led to this problem in Ukraine. Is is you're poking you you poke a snake, and eventually you're going to get bit.
Facts. And whoever wins this next election cycle, and I hope that you people that are still listening, if you're still here listening, pay attention to what Campos is saying. You really want to make change. Start from the grassroots, like they said. Start at home. Start with your council members. Start with your districts. Understanding it. I don't understand it all. I
You
don't, but I'm little by little picking it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so like here's a good example. Let's say if you live in a county where it's predominantly Republican county,
Mm-hmm.
get involved in your become a member of the central committee. I think in Texas it's called executive committee, the same thing, just different name.
Mm-hmm.
But get involved in it. And if you were to get your family, your friends, and people who think like you involved and to become members, and the more numbers you get in there,
Mm-hmm.
you have an influence on uh politicians at the local level. You have an influence on you know people in office at the local level. Same thing at the state level. And then if you
Right.
do it at the state, and it has been done. When here's a good example. In 2012,
Mm-hmm.
the Ron Paul people, we took over the Republican Party of Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
We elected AJ Spiker, who worked on Ron Paul's campaign. He became the chairman of the Republican Party of Iowa. David Fisher was vice chairman, and then once we did that, then he appointed nothing but Ron Paul type liberty minded people
Yeah.
as in appointed offices, and then we got the majority in the central committee of the state,
Mm.
and so we had the majority in the state, and plus the chairman and vice chairman for those 2 years. We had a complete control, and we influenced Iowa politics for those 2 years. Unfortunately, we
Shit.
lost it
Yeah.
because people unfortunately have low attention spans and they don't stay involved.
Right.
But the point is that it has been done, and the more local level you're doing it at, the easier it's going to be.
Well, let me ask you, because the last time there was a third party candidate that involved themselves, I think was Ross Perot. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I mean, because Ralph
Well,
Nader
a
really
big
didn't count.
yeah, I would say in regards of the biggest influence, yeah, Ross Perot.
Right. And because of him, the Democrats blamed him for Bush winning.
No, opposite, opposite. No, because
Oh, that's right. That was during
Clinton won.
Clinton. That's right.
Yeah,
That's
Clinton
right.
won. Yeah,
That's right. So, I mean, that just goes to show you, maybe you should listen to the people. That maybe we need to start throwing in more third party candidates in there till they say, like, okay, we got to listen to the people because they're tired of us getting these suits. So, look, one of the reasons that I liked and supported Donald was because I figured, okay, he's a businessman. He's not involved in politics as heavily as these other people.
yeah,
And my thoughts were he's going to surround himself around the subject matter experts, which he needs to, and then
yeah.
together they will come up with a solution to any kind of problem, right? That's what I thought, and that's what I figured he would do. Unfortunately, he didn't want that. He wanted nothing but yes men. You know what I mean?
Well, and see the problem with the good and bad with Trump was that see he was an outsider coming from outside of politics. He wasn't part of the career political class,
Right.
and he's coming from a background where he's running everything. It's a business. So when he went into the presidency, the biggest problem that happened and is that he surrounded himself with all these different people with all these different ideologies,
Mm-hmm.
and it just created. And there's a guy who he actually wrote a book called Fire and Fury. Who he was actually at the White House. He was a journalist writing, taking notes on all this stuff. I didn't read it, but I listened to his interview talking about the book. And
Mm-hmm.
in his book, he basically talked about how stuff wasn't getting done and there's all these problems because, like, for example, foreign policy, you'd have a neocon working together with somebody who's a liberty minded person. They 100% disagree with each other
Right.
on that, and all there was just fighting and fighting because Trump, with not understanding how things are, he thought
Right.
he was thinking, well, I'm the president, just like I'm a CEO, I could just make these people work together. And that's not how it works. It's not.
Right.
And so that's why, here's what I'm going to say right now. That's why they fear him. The powers that be fear him more now than they did back then, because the difference is he learned his lesson
Mm.
uh, back then, where he know now if he gets reelected, I'm pretty sure he's going to place people in there that's going to be MAGA people who think like him, and are not
Mm-hmm.
going to be fighting each other, and stuff will get done. Um,
Finally would be
uh,
nice.
and a good example of this is picking, like, he picked who's the vice president, Pence.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, completely. That guy is not even a MAGA person at all. He picked him because Trump only picked him just because he was trying to make people feel good in the party, and so he's not gonna make that same mistake with picking whoever his VP is.
Yeah, I think that. Well, I mean, his influence right now with the Republican Party is beyond fucking belief. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
and what I don't like is how they portray it to be like if you're support Trump, you're racist, or
yeah.
I don't buy that
His,
because I
it,
think it's just he loves this country is the way
there
I see it.
right now, there's multiple polls coming out right now that are saying that people from the Black community and Hispanic community are leaving the Democrat Party right now,
I
and they're
was going to
voting for
mention
Trump.
that. I
If
was just go ahead.
Yeah, no, no, I'm just wanted to mention that.
Oh yeah, I was going to mention that because I've talked to a lot of my folks that that are of our background,
Yeah,
and they're tired of it. They're like, even they're seeing it like, okay, this the biggest thing is immigration. And there's
yeah,
to me, the reason there's going to be illegal immigration is because they make it so difficult to migrate here legally. You know, if the migration policies that we had would be a simpler one, even something to the lines like they used to have, that you can come over here, work for a few months, go back, for whenever they're needed or whatnot. That would
yeah.
make a big difference. But
Well, well,
go
and,
ahead.
and well, and something else I want to add on, something I like that a lot of people don't talk about when it comes to the whole immigration issue, is our foreign policy. A lot of people don't realize that
Yes.
some of the stuff that we do, some of the things that we do in these South American and Central American countries, it causes people to come flood here because we do things that either gets them destroys their economy, and then they don't have anything, so their only choice to survive is to basically immigrate somewhere and come to
So,
America.
so
Uh,
I just had that conversation last Monday. I don't know if you
yeah,
saw that episode.
I only saw the clip. I saw the clip with the lady when you were mentioning you're asking her questions about. She said something about like, look at the size of Texas. Anybody can live here. There's so much
Oh no, there
room.
was another clip that I put up where
Okay.
where I asked them why did they go to Guatemala, Venezuela, like all these
Yeah.
other countries, and she
Yeah.
said because it's our fault. That's why they're coming here.
Yeah.
And she was saying because of the sanctions that we've placed on these countries, that's why they're
Yeah.
migrating over here. Now, I'm not saying that she's wrong. I'm not saying that she's right. What I am saying is there's other options for them
Yeah.
to take. Now I get it, Venezuela. Yeah, we may be a lot of our influence has been to the I guess to the other countries' downfall has led to it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that they can't uprise and fix their own situation. And
Yeah.
I don't want to give that carte blanche for them to just come over here and be like, because of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
think that there does need to. Oh shit! Okay, I don't know if you could hear me, but
I can hear you.
can you still hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to stick this thing in here in the hole, and there we go. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. But anyways, what I was trying to say is, there needs to be a way to migrate here, and there's got to be the only issue is it's like I was telling her, like we're overpopulated. We really are.
Yeah.
And that's when she made the whole, have you seen Texas? Have you seen all that space in between there?
That
And it's like, uh,
yeah, and that's there's a difference between land and then actually, buildings that are built and economy. Just because there's space doesn't
mhm.
mean that there's economy there to hold and house people. That those are two different things. Yeah, there's all this space, but you got to build the homes. Who's going to build the homes? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay? What about the jobs? Who's going to build that? Who's going to Okay, so there's space, but there's how these people are going to fend themselves.
Give
But
me a
then
second, brother.
again,
Give me 1 second. Hold on.
yep.
Hey, what's up, big dog? I'm recording a podcast. What's going on? Everything good?
Oh yeah, call me out there.
All right. Well, I'll try to. I got why everything good? Everything okay?
Oh yeah, everything good. Fucking shoot the shit, bro. What's it?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm rocking with a podcast right now. I'll send you a text later, though. All right.
Yeah, dude.
All right, then, homie. Later. All right. That's my homeboy Leon, friend of the podcast. He's been on here a couple of times. I served with him in Fort Carson. But yeah, I mean, no doubt there's a lot of land here, but it doesn't mean that it's just meant to be fucking populated. I mean, if that was the
Yeah.
case, hey, let's be
Well, look
another
what
India.
look what's going on in New York City right now. It's
Right.
Yeah, that's just ridiculous. And giving away free money. That's Oh my goodness. And then
You know, uh, It's funny you
Ooh,
mentioned.
and
Go ahead.
I guess the only other thing is I mean, and how do you expect the local people to see that? And especially you got local people who live there who are struggling right now, and then you have these people from
Yes.
the outside. I mean, just it's I don't understand the mentality that these Democrats have, that they honestly think that that's okay and they're going to get reelected by implementing these policies like that.
And then of course they tossed the blame to the Republican governor of Abbott, who has taken those drastic measures,
Yeah,
because he wants them to feel what Texans are feeling,
yeah,
you know. And unfortunately, until both of them are at fault at this, both sides of the parties are at fault for this.
yeah.
I don't know what
Well,
was in the
yep.
paperwork that Biden had put out that that the Republicans went against, but I still think that there needs to be something implemented to that they can both agree on for the safety and security of our country.
And I would hope that some people say that this the plan that got destroyed in the Senate, they say that the Republicans purposely denied it because it would
It will
make
give them a
Biden,
win.
it would give Biden a win, but then also they would rather have this argument continuing to go on as we go into the election, and it would help Trump get elected, and then they think that then of course their mindset is, well, then once Trump gets elected, he's going to fix everything. He's going to build the wall. He's going to clamp down on the illegal immigration. And
Hmm.
so there's some truth to that. But at the same time, but that's also, I'm also going to say that's the difference with these MAGA Republicans compared to a lot of these traditional Republicans, is because when it comes to the immigration debate, the Republicans, they want the cheap labor. The Democrats want the cheap, easy votes.
Right.
And so that's what it comes to. But at the end of the day, they don't look at what's good for the entire society and what's good for, America.
And here's the thing. I mean, I don't want to seem heartless. I don't want to seem like, ungrateful to this country because they did provide my family a path, to legal residency after they came
Yeah,
here illegally. Granted, my parents came here on student visas, or like work visas,
yeah.
and then they overstayed. So, and then, well, then they had to go back and then they came back. Anyway, what I'm saying is, I think that laws were a little bit more lenient back then because they needed the cheap labor. They benefited from the cheap labor. But now, because there's so many immigrants coming here illegally, I mean, it's just it.
Well, well,
Uh,
the things that we our country has done when it comes to foreign policy to a lot of these countries back then, we're feeling the negative effects of it now.
hmm,
Um, and so, like, a lot of these things that happen within these South American and these Central American countries, foreign policy wise, that where we've destroyed their economy, we've propped up, we endorse and we advocate certain dictators
hmm,
and other elections, and it hurts, it hurts their economy, and then that's why they come up here. So like back then, we were doing it back then during at the end of the Cold War, and so now it's starting to really affect us now. And then of course you got things like NAFTA. That
hmm,
NAFTA has been a huge problem and impact when it comes to illegal immigration. Good example: Mexico is subsidized the corn agricultural industry for corporate business and has ran out of business all these small locally owned farmers in Mexico. So they
mm,
can't compete with these corporations that are producing now at a manufacturing level.
right.
So they get ran out of business. They can't do it. So what do? They come up here. They illegally immigrate up here because
Okay.
the policies that we have advocated.
That makes sense. So what would be a good temporary solution in your mind? Like, I mean, what could, like, just temporarily at least put a band-aid over a bullet wound?
I mean, the thing is, the border does have to. I'm not an advocate of the wall. I think that's a waste of taxpayer money. I do think it is uh, the right of every country to defend its borders. That's what having sovereignty is. So if
Hmm.
you were to have border patrol or the military down there to guard, but at the end of the day, that to me, that's just putting a band-aid on a bullet wound. What needs to happen is there has to be a crackdown on the businesses that hire them. um, Government, we can't be given, regardless of whether his stance is on like things like welfare and assistance. That stuff should be for U.S. citizens, not for people from outside the country.
Hmm.
So if the government were to crack down on businesses and as well as not provide, these welfare uh, assistance, a lot of these people would deport themselves. You
All
wouldn't
right.
have to deport. You wouldn't have to you wouldn't have to be spending all this money to round people up and kick them out. They're just gonna deport themselves back.
You know, as you were talking about what was going on out there in New York, especially like, giving them those debit cards with like X amount of money, and that's only to be spent on like, food and just stuff like that. I mean, it's not, I don't know if they can go out and buy like filet mignon with it. I don't know is it like an EBT card? How do they know what's being
I
bought? You
that
know what I'm saying? And
I would, yeah, I would imagine it's like food stamps.
I would hope so, but I mean, even with food stamps like the EBT card, I mean, they can still go out and buy all the steaks they want, And I'm not trying to be a dick here, but you know what? Those homeless people out there that are out there not by choice, because there are some people that are homeless by
Yeah,
choice. And can we stop calling them
yeah,
unhoused? They're fucking homeless. All right, Jesus Christ! It used to
yeah.
be
That's
bums. Now they were homeless. Now they're fucking unhoused. Like what the fuck? It's just getting ridiculous. It reminds me of George Carlin. And his bits. But anywho, how much of a slap in the face is that? To these people. I think Cat Williams was talking about it last night when I was watching it with Joe Rogan,
yeah,
and it's just like, hello, I'm here. Can you help me? You know what I'm saying? Can
yeah,
we fix in
yeah.
house before we try to fix outhouse? And it's
But
I don't know what's
I
going
mean,
on in those countries. Hmm.
to me, it makes more sense. But these a lot of these Democrat politicians are, like I said, their goal is easy votes. It's
Yeah.
easy cheap votes.
Well, I'm all about like my solution, my bullet wound band-aid is close the borders temporarily.
Yeah,
Only people that could
yeah,
egress and outgress is gonna be like, the only people that could go in and out are gonna be, if you're documented legally, you have,
yeah.
all your paperwork. All right, then
Well,
you can go out, you come back in. However, anybody that's here will have like a immunity for let's say a year even. Immunity of a year. Come on in, report yourself, and we'll do a background check. We'll go ahead and check your fingerprints versus, anything that's out there federally. And if you come back cleared, all right, cool, man. You're a temporary resident until you pay off a fine of like let's say $10,000, which will be, and we'll call it a trespassing tax.
yeah,
And then, once you get that paid off, then you become a permanent resident, but you will never be a citizen. You will never be a citizen. Citizenship should not be given to them because they did it. They came here
yeah,
illegally.
yeah,
Illegally. So their
yeah.
children got it. But them, no. And there should be and if we're gonna give them
But
welfare, it
yeah,
should be 6 months only.
but then
Done.
but then and I think it makes sense. But then here's the other question, because you've heard the term anchor babies.
Yep.
You heard that term? Because the only
Hmm.
problem with that, I would see with that, is like if you allow for that, then you're also sending a message to people where they'll come here illegally and they're like, okay, well, I can't become a citizen, but if I come here and my child's born, they can become a citizen. So
Hmm.
then you're also opening up the door for, you're
Like
sending people,
incentivizing.
yeah, you're incentivizing a message to them to do that.
Well, I guess you could put a stipulation in there that any I mean there would have to be some kind of amendment ratification there, because there
Yeah,
have to be a stipulation that says a child that is born here to a temporary resident until their documents are cleared is not going to be considered a legal citizen
yeah,
until their paperwork comes back that they're cleared to be a permanent resident. And then
yeah,
if because of their paperwork doesn't come back, gravy, you and your baby are going to be gone. But then that again, that's the hard part because
yeah,
that it's ingrained in the Constitution, right? That once we're born here, we're here.
yeah,
So I mean, I get it, man. And I think what sucks too is I was having this conversation with my mom, and she was saying like there's got to be something going on out there south of the border that is telling these people to continue to come in these waves. Like, I mean, it's I don't understand why they're coming in these massive waves like never before. And I mean, especially if I'm sure they watch the news that
yeah,
There's
Well,
really nothing here.
when they if they watch the news and they see that these people in New York City are getting all this free stuff, I mean, you're
Yeah.
incentivizing people to come here. That's just all, especially when you got people who are just living dirt poor in these third world countries. I mean,
Hmm.
coming here getting a welfare check or some kind of
But
EBT,
see,
something
here's
like
the
that.
thing, though, Campos. The people that are living dirt poor out there are
Yeah,
not the ones coming up here because how are they going to afford to come up here? You
I
see
mean,
what I'm saying?
some of them are. I mean, there's video of them like hopping trains to come up here.
Oh, yeah, that's the way they do it. I mean, they come on, but what I'm saying is they still got to pay coyotes. They still got to pay people on the way up here. You know what I'm saying? So some people, yeah, I get it. They'll sell their stuff, or they'll have
Well,
family members out here that'll pay.
Well, that and then I mean they'll do work for the cartel. So this is so here's
Yeah.
one of the reasons why I'm against like a wall. So I don't know if you remember Duncan in 2008. Duncan Hunter, he was one of the candidates in the Republican Party running against Ron Paul in the
Okay.
okay. He ran on this big I built because he was a congressman of California and
Mhm.
he implemented this fence that was like 3 section fence, big barbed wire. It made it almost impossible for anybody to cross the border in that section
Okay.
illegally. And that was the big thing that he campaigned on is look, I'm preventing illegal immigration, I'm
Hmm.
the border and all this stuff. Okay, so he did that, and it worked, and it didn't work. And here's how it didn't work. So it worked in the sense that people were not crossing above, but then what it did is it allowed the cartel on the other side of the border to basically dig a tunnel under
Right.
there. The FBI found it probably I think so that was in 2008. I think it was maybe like 2010 2012
Hmm.
when the FBI found because it went underground and then it came out shack. FBI found it. FBI said that billions and billions of drugs as well as hundreds of thousands of illegals came through that
Mm.
tunnel. So more people came illegally and more
Right.
drugs crossed that section of the border illegally after that wall was built than before. So
I
it was
mean, yeah.
counterproductive. It was
Well,
counterproductive.
the thing is that when you got somebody that wants to come, they're gonna find a way to come through anyway. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, I mean, I like one of the good things, one of the benefits starting to see is that like with the whole stuff that's going out here in Texas, now they're moving out to Tucson. Now they're moving out, to the other borders, whether it's New Mexico, Arizona, or California. I mean, so yeah, it's great for us out here in Texas. We ain't got to deal with it now or spend our money or resources,
yeah.
but now it's taxing them. But at the same time, California, hey, welcome all. So here's the way I figure it. And this was just something I was thinking about, man. Like all this money that they're spending on these walls, all this money that they're spending on all this these mitigating barriers. Why don't they put that into their governments of those countries to try to stabilize those countries? Well, then the answer is right there within itself because the governments are corrupt and they're just going to steal
Yeah,
the money anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah.
i- it's it's just tough one, man. It's really a tough one.
It's like I said. I think to me, in my opinion, the best is the solution is to crack down on the businesses that hire them and to not provide any welfare.
Well, here's the problem with that though, because look, there's a lot of motherfuckers all saying that they ain't got no jobs, right? That they can't
Yeah,
work because illegals are
yeah,
coming to take their job. You know what? If you can't get hired because let's be real, the majority of the jobs they're taking are what are they're doing. I'm not gonna say taking construction and farm work are the majority
and
of the jobs.
and kitchen.
Okay, kitchen staff, stuff like
Yeah,
that, right? So
yeah,
what you're telling me is that you're aiming low, as far as career wise. So what I'll say is, you know what? If you can't get a job, then go stand outside of Home Depot with the rest of them and get your ass at work. And they get paid good daily and they don't have to pay taxes on it. Guess what? You'll have a job. I'm just saying, hey, you can't beat them, join them, right? But it's not like they're taking fucking bankers' jobs or doctors' jobs or professional jobs. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And those that do come and take like or work like in factory jobs, like I'll say unskilled. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
they're not like I said, professional jobs. So
yeah.
maybe they
Well,
should aim
and I'll
higher.
also say but I'll also say that if you remove if you crack if you crack down on the businesses and you take away the welfare, and they deport themselves. Eventually, what happens is it forces these businesses to raise wages
Well,
because
go ahead.
if there's less of a supply of workers there in an area, then
Hmm.
they have to incentivize for people to work. And
Exactly.
if you have construction work that people may not necessarily want to do it for $15 an hour because that's backbreaking,
Hmm.
well, maybe a lot more people might be willing to do that backbreaking work for maybe 22, $25 an hour.
That's a great example that you're saying right there. So a lot of businesses, my understanding, that they got to use e-verify, in order to verify somebody's documents are legit, right? So I mean, it's not like it used to be back in the old days where they just show up with a fake green card and a fake fucking ID, and all right, they're welcome to the job. Now you have to
Yeah.
be digitally recognized. There's got to be a digital footprint, I guess, and so any of these businesses that are legitly paying their people are doing that. So I mean, I'm just trying to wonder, like, where are they doing this? Where are they hiring these illegal workers? Because
Well, because a lot of them pay them under the table, and then also, I have friends in HR who they've even told me this, where they know what to look out for people who are probably illegal,
hmm.
but they accept certain things like probably a fake social security card, a fake ID. They probably see certain things that they suspect, but they take it anyway because they're like looking the other way. You know what I mean? They're looking the other way because they need the workers. They want to pay these
Right.
people cheaper. So like a lot of these people in HR know they know what they're doing. They kind of, how do you say, they look the other way.
So I think that yeah, definitely. So definitely putting a stop to the illegal migration is going to definitely benefit the citizens of this country. Now, let's just say, for example, we had open borders. You
Oh,
know, what do you think would occur with that?
that would, okay. I mean, you're gonna have all kinds of problems with that. I mean, people would flood here. People would flood here. You'd have tension between communities. It would invoke racism because you'd have tension between communities. A good example of this is one of the biggest reasons why the UK broke away from the European Union, because they had open borders,
Hmm.
and they were getting floods and floods of people from Eastern Europe, from these poor European countries, and they're flooding the UK, willing to work for the minimum wage. Nigel Farage, who's in England, he used to say the minimum wage has now become the maximum wage in England, and
Wow.
that was the biggest motivator to why the UK broke away from the European Union, because when you're in the European Union, you basically have open borders. And so
Mm.
the UK said, we're not doing, it's causing too much of a problem. It's hurting our citizens here. It's creating tension between communities, and that's why they broke away. Because but to answer your question, if we had it would just be, it would be horrible. It'd be devastating to the economy. It'd be devastating. People would lose their jobs. People would be, minimum wage would become the maximum wage. You'd have riots, people fighting each other. You'd have fucking riots probably going on in the
Oh,
streets.
I think that the race riots would be the first one,
Yeah,
especially because, like, let's say, for example, a lot of them are coming from South and Central America, that's
yeah,
for sure. But once they come into these countries, like those that are born citizens here, those that are Latino uh, backgrounds or Latino, I don't want to say culture, but if we're also of the Hispanic race, Latin race, even though they say it's not
yeah,
a race or whatever. Those of us of you know descendancy of Spain and Indians. I don't know how else to say it that will sound fucking politically correct. You know what I'm saying? Those Latinos, all right, that were born here in the States,
yeah,
they will have an issue with it because I was watching videos, bro, from the 60s, 70s, and 80s
yeah,
of when the migrants were coming over in Central America,
yeah.
and how
Well,
and the Mexicans and the Mexican Americans that were already here, or Hispanic Americans
yeah,
that were here already,
yeah,
were like, oh, these fucking wetbacks are coming over here, and they're
yeah,
taking the jobs,
yeah.
and like,
Uh,
damn.
you know who was a big proponent, who was against illegal immigration? Cesar
Cesar
Chavez.
Chavez,
Yeah, he spoke out against it because he was standing up for these Hispanic farmers
the
that were
farm
here,
workers.
who were born here, who worked out in the fields. He was, and so what was happening is these people who were coming here illegally, you'd have
Hmm.
these owners of these either corporations or these farmers were hiring them because they were willing to work for cents on the dollar.
Hmm. Exactly, and he called them wetbacks.
Yeah.
He caught them
Yeah.
wetbacks. I saw it on
Yeah.
video, you know. So
Yeah.
it makes me laugh when I see all these people talking about la raza, la raza, la raza. But
Yeah.
at the same time, they're like, "Oh, you're being racist against your own
Yeah.
race," and blah blah blah. Like, nah, dude, I'm not being racist. I'm just being realistic.
Yeah.
You know, where are they going to flood to first? The big cities. That's where they're going to go to first.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, can you imagine just where? First of all, where are they going to stay at? Okay, yeah, they're going to go stay with some. Some will have family members, some won't. You know what I'm saying? And then, but it's gonna. People need. People are gonna steal. People are gonna do what they have to do to
Yeah.
survive.
And the thing is, when you have that number of people, yeah, a lot of them may be good people
Yeah.
with people integrity. You're going to get bad people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it has happened. I'm sure you heard about the girl, the nurse student running.
Yep. Lakin.
Yeah. And then there's like 3 other instances, but that's the biggest one.
Well, it's kind of
That is most recent.
it's kind of like the whole Cuba ordeal. What happened when Cuba opened the borders from when Fidel opened up the borders for Cuba and sent over the prisoners and shit like that.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? In the 80s. But you know what's a trip also is, you know, it's not just the Hispanics that I'm worried about, because I'm not worried about them at all.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about those that are not too friendly to our
Chinese.
country.
Well,
We
yeah, I
have
mean,
China.
I'm sure you've seen that Chinese have been coming, jumping the southern border,
Yes.
crossing the southern border into here, as well as they also said people of Middle Eastern descent.
Yeah.
have
You know
said
what's a
so.
trip?
Yeah.
Trip on this. I was at my daughter's school a few months back, and it was sometime last year, and it was my junior high school daughter, and I was talking to a full bird. You know, for those that
Yeah.
don't know, if you're not military, I'm talking about a full bird colonel. All right.
Yeah.
So I was talking to a full bird colonel, and you know, he saw my tattoos and whatnot, and he saw that I was military. So we're just chopping it up, shooting shit, right? And then he's like, "Yeah, man, you know, I'm actually over here because I'm working on how there's Chinese buying land, you
Yep.
know," and he's like, you know, and
Yep.
around military complexes too. So, you know, that's like kind of like what his focus was on. Now, I didn't go too much deeper than that because I mean, there's only so much he can provide or expose anyway. But it was just like, you know, we got into that conversation. I'm like, you know, and I started hearing more about that later on in the year about, you know, the Chinese buying land and this and the government's getting into it. Like, oh shit, this is what that colonel was talking about. You know what I mean? It's a crazy,
Yeah.
you know, it's a trip, bro. And it's not just them though. You got the Chinese, you got people from the Middle East coming over, you know, and we got our own homegrown terrorists we got to worry about. You know what I'm saying? So, but anyway, dude, I do have a hard stop. I wish that we could continue more. I know that you had a job interview today. Hey, good luck with that shit. Hopefully everything goes good to go on that. You ever need a reference, just hit me up, man. I'll be more than glad to fucking write up a fucking reference letter for you. All right. Hey, we surf together and I'll just put our shit on there. Yeah, no doubt, man. Hey, y'all, thank you for being here. If you made it the full hour with me and Campos, I appreciate it. Make sure y'all do some comments down there. We'll have a conversation. Roland, I know you're going to be the first one on here, you know, so go on and ask your questions. Give us your thoughts. Everybody else, hit me up at onthegunline@gmail.com if you want to come and kick back and hang out with me here and chop up and shoot the shit, which is what I like to say in the beginning, but I only got 2 minutes. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. Anywho, if you guys want to come and guest on the gun line, onthegunline@gmail.com. If you guys want to go ahead and just, you know, support a brother, just give me a like. A freaking like is all I need. And anything else is a blessing from y'all. So, Campos, thank you for being here, brother. We'll definitely link up again. We got to do this at least once a month because I need to get my, especially with this political season.
Yeah, and we're getting every month. We're getting closer to November.
Yes, sir. So with that being said, I got to get out of here because my appointment's at 2:30 and it's 2:15 and I'm going to be late. With that being said, everybody, rounds complete. End of mission. Gun line out. Laters, y'all. Hey, you like that little cannon at the end?
Oh yeah.
All right then, homie. You have a good one, and I'll talk to you maybe in 2 weeks so we can link up another date. Is that cool?
That sounds good.
All right, man. I'm always down with your Charlie Brown and your politics. So let me know what you want to talk about next time, brother.
All right, I'll look into it.
All right, deuces, man.
All right, see you.